In the culture that we live in today, bro, people are starving for the authentic. They're starving for people who are real. Do you do what you say you're going to do? And when you do that in this culture, people are drawn to you.
I mean, we're all wired to even just pick up on authenticity. You can have somebody who's really good at the process, but they don't know how to connect. They don't know how to be authentic.
Servant leaders put other people's needs before their own. They do things right the first time, and they do things without being asked. There are two types of people. There are thermometers and there are thermostats. When you walk into a room, do people gravitate towards you, or do people not even notice that you're there?
Welcome to The Takeover with Tim and Cindy, where we show you how to dominate every area of life and business. Let's get winning.
Welcome back to The Takeover. Today, I'm super excited to have the one, the only, the man, the myth, the legend, Ken Joslin, who is the founder of Growth Stack Drive. He runs a podcast as The Leader Grows. You've done up to 300 million in real estate transactions, and you also ran one of the largest youth groups in the country back in the 90s, right?
Yeah, late 90s, early 2000s.
Dude, and I think one thing I was super excited to get you on this podcast for is just because the network that you're able to create, like the ability for you to be able to get in the room, make connections, make friends with people. And I'm talking like genuine connections, like the authenticity that, and everybody that speaks of you says the same thing, is that you're just so authentic, you're a connector. And so I'm really excited to have you on this podcast because our audience is all about winning. Like they're here to dominate in every area of life and business. And so I'm excited to have you on the store. I'm excited to have you on the podcast today. So maybe we just start off with, tell us a little bit about like your success journey and your journey, Ken.
Yeah. So, it is all about relationships. I talk a lot about proximity is a cheat code. Relationships really are the thing that separate us from everything else. And I remember you talked about authenticity about 3 years ago. It was my second or third live event. It was small. We did it in Vegas with my good friend Bradley at Brad's Event Space. And Gary Brecka came in. It was the first event that Gary Brecka had done with me. And Gary did a talk on a study that they did. I don't remember which medical journal published it, but he talked about how we as humans emit EMFs, electromagnetic frequencies. Like there's a frequency that comes from us. And he talked about the highest frequency recorded from an individual was the frequency of authenticity, or when they were in authenticity. And there's two things that it takes to be authentic. Number one, you have an understanding of a certain subject. And the second thing is you have a deep passion about that subject. And when you have an understanding and a desire for a subject, I don't care, whatever it is, it could be selling cars, it could be setting up podcast studios, it could be personal growth. But when you have a passion for that thing, every single one of us know when we get around somebody that's passionate, there's something different about that individual. But I'll never forget when Gary said that day. He goes, it is an understanding about a subject and a knowledge combined with a deep passion. It's the highest frequency we emit, but check this out, dude. It's also the most sought after frequency. People are looking for people who are authentic. And I think when you live an authentic life and you're comfortable doing that, dude, it's the people you attract. And we talk about attraction a lot, right? The people you attract in your life are absolutely amazing.
Yeah. And I think we're all wired to even just pick up on authenticity. Even somebody who's not even skilled can get a feeling if somebody's being authentic or not. I even think about just like, I've trained a lot of salespeople, a lot of entrepreneurs on how to do sales, a lot of different pieces like that. And I always say process plus presence is what gets really good deals. So it's like, you can have somebody who's really good at the process. They know all the pieces, but they don't know how to connect. They don't know how to be present. They don't know how to be authentic. But on the other side, you could have somebody that doesn't have the process, and you kind of have to have two in place. And I think that's one thing is you are very authentic. You connect very well, but you're also very strategic. You wake up at 4. I know you were up at 4:27 this morning because you had a late night. You wake up at 4. Your meetings are every minute of every day is accounted for. You know exactly what your goals are this year, this quarter, this month. Talk to me about that. Talk to me about where you got that discipline to not just have that authenticity, but you're also very disciplined with every minute of
Yeah.
the day that you do.
Yeah, I think two things. Number one, I just thought of something, dude. I've never shared this publicly ever. I just thought about this when you were talking about authenticity. And you were talking about my youth ministry days. I had one of the largest youth ministries in America. I started with a handful of kids and grew it to several hundred in 1998 and 1999, like way back in the day. I had one of the first youth facilities in the country, and we grew to several hundred kids. And I did that, and I used to say this to people all the time. It was easier for me to speak on a Sunday to a room of adults, any church. I mean, I've been to churches all over the country and spoke. I've been on huge stages around the country. It's easier to speak to a group of adults than it is a group of teenagers. Because if you speak to a group of teenagers and they don't think you care about them and you're not authentic, they'll turn you off quick. So I think maybe that's part of where my authenticity came from was, listen, when you're speaking to hundreds of students every Wednesday night, and if they're up there, dude, I had goosebumps, bro, like legit goosebumps. If they don't believe you care, they're not going to listen to you. They're absolutely they're going to cut you off, bro. They're like, you get up there and you're just doing your deal. They're like, no, I'm not listening to this guy. I used to have a girl that came to my youth ministry every Wednesday night. She would show up early and I would walk outside. Dude, I had an auditorium that sat like 300 and 350 kids, a 50s diner, looked like something from Happy Days. It was so cool. Full restaurant, basketball courts, and all this stuff. Before that was the norm, right? This was 25 years ago. She would come and she would sit on the outside of the door of my cafe, and one of my ushers would come in and go, "Hey, Ken, she's so-and-so's out there in the front." I don't even know what the girl's name is now. But I would go out, she would be smoking a cigarette in front of my door. She's like in the 9th grade, 10th grade, right?
Yeah.
And I would walk up and I'd put my arm around her and I say, "Hey girl, what's up? It's so good to see you. You can't smoke no cigarette outside my cafe. Girl, what's wrong with you?" And she'd put the cigarette out and she'd put it out with her foot. And she would look at me and she'd be like, "I'm sorry, Pastor Ken." And she didn't smoke a cigarette because she had a nicotine rush. She smoked that cigarette because she knew Pastor Ken was going to walk outside in the middle of rehearsal. He was going to walk outside, put his arm around her and care for her. That's the authenticity. Dude, I haven't told that story in probably 15 or 20 years. That's the level of authenticity. So when we talk about relationships, when we talk about building relationships with the people that I get to do life with, dude, all I did was just take that level of authenticity that I had that helped me build one of the largest youth ministries in the country. And I just segued it right into work, right into business, right into my relationships. When you genuinely care for people, and listen, 25 years ago, it was somewhat the norm in youth ministry. And I spoke all around the country in some of the biggest conferences in the country when it came to student ministry. I hosted one of the largest national youth leadership conferences in the country with all my mentors. But today, Tim, in the culture, the Instagram influencer culture we live in today, bro, people are starving for the authentic. They're starving for people who are real. Like, do you do what you say you're going to do? Are you who you say you are? And when you do that in this culture, bro, it is, people are drawn to you like a magnet.
And I think that's that because they're the Instagram culture, because there's the fake, you even look at just the crazy claims that you're starting to see on Instagram and like all of this insane stuff. And I think, if you look at any kind of marketing or advertising, one thing that Eugene Schwartz talked about in breakthrough advertising back in the 60s is when everybody's doing one kind of thing, over promising, over hyping, it makes the opposite of that more valuable. So it's like the value that having authenticity in this marketplace is like, it's always had value, but I think even more so, and you make a really good point that even more so now that it differentiates you because we have so little authenticity. And I love what you said about the teenagers, because I'm just thinking of the teenager I was. I'm thinking about the teenagers I know. Like, you're not going to get fake likes and smiles and you get the real authentic from them, and to be able to get their attention and keep them engaged is wow, man. I really God sets you up to be able to do that, because you put that was your boot camp to be able to get people's attention and keep people's attention, man.
It's unbelievable. After I did my first mastermind in Atlanta about 2.5 years ago, it's 2 years ago in May, 2 years ago in May, so just shy of 2 years, Sean Lovejoy, who's been my pastor, coach, and mentor forever, he runs an organization called Courage to Lead. He coaches some of the top pastors in the country. He built that to a 7-figure coaching organization in less than 3 years. And he spoke. He had just released a new book, I believe, with Thomas Nelson called Killer Teams. He had just had a new book published. He came and spoke. We got done. We had lunch the next week at Chipotle here in Birmingham. And he said, dude, what I saw you do in that room with that group of businessmen. I mean, I've got people in there making $1 million a month, people making $1 million a year. I mean, I've got some very successful business owners in that room. He said, what I saw God do how I saw God use you in that room. He goes, I see how he worked in your life to create the man that you needed to become to do what I saw in that room today. I could not have done that without all the relationships that came in my life over the past 15 years.
I love that. And I think there's gifts people have, there's talents people have, and then there's a development in getting better at those talents. So I think like a lot of people listening to this show, they're going, how can I get better? And how can I get more clients? How can I get more attention? How can I get in more rooms? How can I make better connections? So, I mean, the lessons you've learned over the years of getting attention, keeping attention, being authentic, what would you tell an entrepreneur, whether they're already doing $1 million a month or they're, wherever they're at, what would you tell them a skill set or how you make sure you get in the room, you expand the room, you create the connections that you do?
I just did a video this past week, and you may have heard this already. Some of your audience may have heard this before, but I mean, I've been teaching this for 20 plus years. There are two types of people. There are thermometers and there are thermostats. A person who's a thermometer just goes in a room and they just gauge the temperature of the room. A thermostat has the ability to change the temperature of the climate of any room they walk into. And what kind of person are you? When you walk into a room, do people gravitate towards you, or do people not even notice that you're there? When you have the right energy, and I'm going to tell you what that energy looks like in just a second. When you have the right energy, you really care, you care about people, I'm telling you, it's a game changer. So I've got 4 daughters and 1 brand new granddaughter. So my granddaughter's 10 weeks old as we're recording this, and she is the most precious thing on the planet. But my 28-year-old was 5. She was going to a Christian pre-K. I would take her. I owned my own mortgage company back then. I would drive her to school and pick her back up. And I started something with her when she was 5, 23 years ago, that I did with every one of my kids when I took them to school and picked them up. I would look at them and I'd say, okay, Emma, or in this case, my oldest daughter, Holly. I'd say, Holly, what do servant leaders do? And she would look at me, and she's 5. She's like, Daddy, servant leaders put other people's needs before their own. They do things right the first time, and they do things without being asked. Okay, now when I pick you up today, I want you to give me an example on how you were a servant leader today. And I'd pick her up. I'd get in the carpool line. She'd hop in the car, and she'd say, Daddy, today we got back. It was so hot outside, and we got back in from recess, and Johnny was behind me in the line, and I let him go in front of me and get water before me. Miss Green's trash needed to be taken out, and Daddy, I just did it. She didn't have to ask me. For 20 years, or literally, let me say 18 years, so she was about 21 or 22, 16, 18 years. I mean, every single day when I took them and picked them up, I taught them this. When she was in her 2nd year of college in Birmingham, she's working at a brand new Chick-fil-A here in Birmingham, literally brand new. She started just as somebody working at Chick-fil-A, working a cashier. And literally within a span of about 12 to 18 months, she just kept getting promoted. Wow. She was like the front end kitchen manager, right? So like she handled all the whole team, drive-through, cashiers, all the stuff. The owner operator comes in. He owns 2 Chick-fil-A's here in Birmingham. The owner operator comes in and goes, how in the world are you 20, 21 years old? How are you getting all these people to do what you want them to do? And she said, because she sent me this picture, she says, I do what my dad taught me since I was in kindergarten. 3 characteristics of a servant leader. I put other people's needs before my own. I do things right the first time, and I do things without being asked. He had her, the picture she sent me, this is the most unbelievable picture. As a dad, the most unbelievable picture ever. He said, I want you to go where, the little stainless steel section where they slide the fries and the chicken nuggets and all the stuff. Written in a Sharpie was 3 characteristics of a servant leader. He had her go and write that in the restaurant. And so she sent me that picture when she was probably 20 or 21 years old.
Wow.
And you want to attract the right people. You want to be able to lead people. Those 3 characteristics of a servant leader, bro, you can be an unbelievable businessman, but if it's all about return on investment versus return on mission, like, why are you there? Do the people that you do business with understand that you care enough about them? I've got a guy who just joined my mastermind this past week for $60K on Friday. Sent him the agreement on Friday. Him and his wife just signed up. They didn't make Create. You know why? Because he's the COO of a company, and his CEO had 17 federal indictments for mishandling PPP money. Ooh. And he was in my community, federal indictments in Mississippi. You can go look it up. Wow. Federal indictments. Dude, he was in my community, which is $6K a year, and he's walking through this process. And I'm like, dude, don't pay me anything. You handle your stuff. And when you're done, you let me know. Dude, I walked through the whole process with him. I would randomly text this guy. Dude, how are you doing? How can I pray for you? How's your heart? How's your wife? Tell me what's going on. Is there anything you need? How can I help you? Dude, I walked through this process with this guy since I met him 6 or 8 months ago. Friday, I get a text from Zach, who's him and his wife, Dr. Shanna. They're in my mat. You saw Dr. Shanna on my stage at Create. I get a text. I get a text from Zach, not guilty, 34 counts. Woo. In the first, yes, that goosebumps, bro.
Jeez,
he calls me on Saturday morning, and I'm like, dude, how are you doing? And like, tell me where your heart's at. And it was a hit job. Like literally, he was with the governor the day before they came and arrested him in his house. And what did I do? I didn't wait for him to be a part of my mastermind. I treated him like my brother, and I treated him like a human being.
Yeah.
Like, dude, how can I help you? Tell me how the process is going. How's your heart? Could you? And my tailor was just here dropping my jacket off. That blue jacket, that silk jacket I wore at Create. We had to take it in a little bit because I've lost a little more weight.
Oh, good for you,
and
man.
He's here. Yeah, he's here. He's here. He knows the guy. I'm literally getting off the phone with him, and my tailor, Marvin, works with his partner, the CEO. And I'm telling him about the whole process. And I'm like, dude, I just walked them through the journey. And so when it comes time for him and his wife to join my mastermind and for me to coach him one-on-one, and I didn't do it for the potential of him signing up with me in 6 months. Or for all I know, he could have went to prison for 25 years. I had no idea.
Yeah.
I didn't know what was going on. But you know what I did? I put his needs before my own. I did things without being asked. I did things right the first time. How can I serve you? And how can I help you?
Wow, dude, that's powerful. I mean, the thing is too, is the proof's in the pudding. I mean, the network you have, the people you know, the connections you make. I mean, that's one thing everybody says about Ken is he's the most connected and the most genuine guy you'll meet. And for me, when I first met you and got to know, I was like, sometimes you're like, wow, this is really intense. Like he just seems so genuine. And so sometimes you're like, what's going on? And then getting to know you and hanging out with you more and going to your conference, which was awesome. It was just like, wow, yeah, you are this genuine. And I think that is what a powerful testament. And man, I know some people listening, they're going to be like, that's awesome. I love those. I can write those 3 things down. What would be like that next level? Say you have those as the foundation. Yeah. You're living that as the foundation. What are like just some practical tips that you give on, hey, you've made a friend, you made a connection. How do you get into, how do you get this guy to lead to this girl to lead to the, you know what I'm saying? Like, how do you make those connections?
I'm flying this week. I fly out Thursday. I'm speaking in San Antonio and Dallas this weekend, 2 different places. I'm speaking this weekend because of relationships that I've built, relationships that I've formed. Yeah. And my talk at the one spot on Friday morning is going to be great leaders want something for people, not from people. Great leaders want something for people, not from people. And I think when you're a leader, my good friend John Maxwell, who spoke at my conference 2 years, my good friend John says, if you think you're leading and nobody's following you, you're just taking a walk. Yeah. Like people follow leaders. And who doesn't want to follow somebody who legitimately puts your needs before their own? Who literally doesn't want to follow somebody who wants something for you, not from you? And so now I've got some practical things. Two different types of relationships. I'll give you this. So I refereed high school and college basketball for 24 years, college basketball for, I don't know, a dozen. I umpired high school baseball and college baseball for another 18 to 20 years. The first time I ever stepped on a high school basketball court, this was 1993, my clinician happened to be a woman named Sally Bell. Sally is the most decorated women's basketball official in the history of the game. She's worked like 13 Final Fours in women's national championship games. She worked the Olympics. She was the one woman chosen for the Olympics from the U.S. in 1996 in Atlanta. She was the conference coordinator for 7 Division I conferences at the end of her career, including the SEC. She is, without a doubt, the first woman chosen to referee in the WNBA. Like when they picked the staff, it was her. She helped pick the rest of the staff. I stepped on the floor in 1993. How old was I then? 25, 6, 7, 27, 20, something like that. 68 to that, you'd figure it out. That's how old I was. It's the first time I ever stepped on a high school basketball court. I've been refereeing like peewee kids and just going at it, man. Because I love the game, right? And I get out there, and Sally's my clinician. So here's what I did. I listened to what she said.
Yeah.
I applied what she said, and then I asked great questions. I listened, I applied, and I asked. Like, that's really what you want to do when you get around Marvin Hudson. My first high school clinic for umpiring. Marvin's been in the big leagues now for 25 or 26 years. He's been a crew chief for the last 3 years. He worked the plate for the Cubs Indians World Series a few years ago. Marvin, this time he was still in like AA or AAA. He wasn't even a big league ump yet. But Marvin was the guy who helped teach me how to umpire. Like everything that I've done in my life, from business to student ministry to what I'm doing now. When I started this 4 years ago, I started it because this crazy little short dude popped up on my Instagram account. And I'm like, who is this dude? This dude's got more energy than I do. And I looked down and listen, it was Grant Cardone. And I made the mistake of hitting the ad.
Click that button,
which put me in Alice in Wonderland, baby. I was down the rabbit trail, right? Which led me to 2 weeks later hopping on a free webinar that was supposed to go 90 minutes. And he's talking about mentorship. Bro, he didn't breathe for 2 hours. It was like passion and mentorship, and this is what you need. And you got to have this, and you got to have, and I literally had my credit card out. I'm like, okay, dude, if you'll shut up, I'm buying whatever it is. I had no idea what he was going to sell. And he went 2 hours plus from a noon to 1:30 p.m. Eastern. And it was like 2:20 before I was able to give my credit card. I picked the phone up. I called Grant's office, and the guy who answered my call was a guy named Contract Jack, which back then he was just Jack because he was a brand new sales guy.
Yeah.
Then the last 3 years, he's
Contract Jack now, huh?
Yes, he is. He's been the number one sales guy for Grant for 3 years. So wow. I hop on that. I hop in the mentorship call on Monday night. I was working a $3 million commercial deal. Now, when I talk about listen to what they say and do what they say, I walk into 10X boot camp on Friday, dude. I have no idea. I'm like, what did I just walk into? I've never seen anything like it in my life. Like the energy, his excitement, I was like, this is amazing. Saturday, I come back.
Boot camp is awesome, man. Boot camp is awesome. Yeah.
Unbelievable. Which I mean, you've been to my conference. A lot of what we do, I formed after what I saw Grant do there.
Yeah.
We mix a little Jesus in it, and that's about it. And so I'm there. The second day is the pitch for the Cardone licensee. I was one of the first $25,000 people that paid $25K to become a licensee. I go in the hallway, and there's Grant, me, Richie Dolan, who ran the program, and 2 other ladies, Dr. Ala and Corinne, 2 friends of mine now. And Grant walks up to me, and he's 5'5". He's a little bitty dude. He's 5'5". Puts his finger out my face. He goes, "What are you doing here? What do you want?" I'm like, dude, I came here for 2 things. I came here to blow the lid off my mindset of what's a lot of money. And the second thing is I planted a church, and it's hard. I came here because I want to help pastors and church planners help their business leaders in their church so their businesses grow so they can fund the kingdom, and the pastor doesn't have to worry about how he's going to pay for a new children's wing or how he's going to pay for his staff. That's why I'm here. And Grant spent 5 minutes with me. He looked at me. He goes, "Ken," he goes, "if you'll let me, I'll help you." I said, "Yes, sir." So an hour later, we walk into a Q&A session. Well, earlier that week on Monday, I'm working on a $3 million church building for a pastor friend of mine. Unlisted property. The property comes in on Monday. The appraisal was $2.625 million. We're $375,000 short. And we're buying the building unrepresented. It's not listed. It's a 72-year-old Chinese guy selling the building who doesn't speak English. I'm having to go through his 22-year-old grad student daughter in Atlanta as the representation. It's a train wreck, bro.
Yeah.
Like it was a $78,750 commission that just blew up in my face. And then after that blew up on Monday, I get on the call Monday night. They go, come to 10X boot camp. I paid another $4 or $5 grand to go to Miami. Saturday morning, I'm in this Q&A session after I meet Grant in the hallway and go, I'm signing up for this $25K deal. We get in there. I grab the microphone. I pitch the deal just like I just told you. $3 million building, 2.625, but I just ripped through the stuff. He looks at me and he goes, preacher, because he still calls me a preacher. He goes, preacher, buy the building. And I looked at him like a cow. I had in the South, we would say it, a cow at a new gate. I looked at him like, what are you I mean, I've done a lot of real estate. You can't just buy a building. I'm $375,000 short on the appraisal. So now my client's going to have to come up with 20% plus the additional $375,000 we're short on. He goes, Ken, find a way to buy the building. When your client sells it, somebody will overpay for it when they sell it. I said, okay. So I'm processing through the rest of the day. I'm like, I'm going to fly home. My client called me at 5 o'clock that day. And I said,
this is an intense,
crazy story, bro.
Time,
crazy story.
This is one of those life-altering moments.
Dude, it was a game changer for me.
Yeah.
So my client calls me at 5 o'clock. I'm in Miami. I said, dude, I'm down here in Miami at this thing called 10. I didn't even know who Grant was 2 weeks before this. I'm down here at this thing called 10X Boot Camp, this crazy dude named Grant Cardone. And this is an African. He goes, oh, I love Grant. I've got money invested in Cardone Capital. Well, great. Let me tell you what he told me to do. So I flew home on Monday. We met with the seller, my buyer, the banker, and I negotiated a seller held second for the $375,000 on a 5-year balloon at the same rate the bank was going to do the 80% purchase price on. We closed on Wednesday. I made $78,750. And I text Jared and I text Grant and I said, I closed the deal. Here's a picture of my wire. And I got in that room and I did what he told me to do. And I closed the biggest deal I've ever closed. Dude, I made 20 grand the first 10 months of the year. I made $129,000 the last 6 weeks of 2019, right before COVID. And that's when Grant started putting me on stage and give me an opportunity to speak. And none of that would have happened had I not invested and put myself in the room, which is why in my planner that I created on the bottom of the right-hand corner of every page, it says, get in rooms with people who think bigger than you do.
Dude, it's so powerful too. I think there's so much from that. I mean, one of the things that really sticks out to me is that when times were tough, you're about to lose this commission, most people would retreat. They go, well, I got to conserve. I got to wait. I'm going to wait till things pan out to make that move. And a lot of times it is in the challenges. It is in the tough times when you see something that you've in your gut, you got to do. When you make those actions, that's when those big breakthroughs happen. That's one thing. And I think the second thing that really stuck out to me is these big influential people, they have people around them all the time. Give me advice, give me advice, give me advice. So few people actually go out and execute on that advice. So few people do it. And it's not that people don't want to give advice, or it's no one wants to invest time and energy into a person. Cause like we both know plenty of people 100%. That are like, oh, I've got this idea. I'll run it. But they're not going to execute on it. And I think that's one thing that you do and that you explained in this was you didn't just get in the room. You took the action. You spent the money, which a lot of people are scared to do. You spent the money despite it being a tough time for you financially because of this deal that was falling through. And then in a very scary situation, you actually took the guy's advice, Grant Cardone's advice, which then opened you up to do more speaking. And I'm sure that's opened up even more connections. Dude,
it grew my entire Instagram account. Every time for a year and a half, Grant was on live and I came on, he pulled me on and said, preacher, share your story. Grew my Instagram to almost 30,000 people, like literally within a span of about 6 to 12 months because I just grew. I've been down to 10X headquarters. I've spoken to the team like 2 or 3 times. I mean, he's given me opportunities in the past 3 to 4 years, not so much now because now I'm doing my own thing, but it was the catalyst. It was the catalyst. Dude, every time I did my conference, guess who texted me 2 days before Create when you were there a month and a half ago? Jared did. He goes, hey, just want to let you know, me and Uncle G are watching what you're doing. Proud of you, man. I texted Jared back. I'm going, thanks. Dude, it's like you will never be able to do or fulfill everything God's put in your heart aside from the relationships God's trying to bring in your life. You have to have the right relationships in your life. You have to. Yep. And when I talk about great leaders want something for people, not from people, that went back 20 plus years. The first big stage I ever got on was one of my mentors. I spoke behind John Maxwell for the first time ever. Now I've done it 3 times. 8,800 people, I have to get up on stage behind John Maxwell. Bro, John sucks all the air out of the room. You know how hard that is? I'm 32 years old. I think I hung the freaking moon. Well, the person that spoke behind me was my mentor. Well, after we get done, she goes, can I take you to lunch tomorrow? I said, I would love to. I sat down at lunch with Jeannie. She said, I'm going to ask you the most important question of your life. Do you want to be significant or do you want to be successful? Because they're 2 different things. And she walked me through the difference between significant leaders build others around them so they'll win, understanding Zig Ziglar's, my favorite Zig Ziglar quote, if I help enough people get what they want, eventually I'll get what I want.
Oh, yeah. I love that quote. I love that quote, man.
So bro, people who chase success, they use people around them and they always leave a trail of damage. It's 2 totally different perspectives. So when I talk about significance is greater success, return on mission is greater than return on investment. When you have that mentality as a business leader and as a business owner, and as an entrepreneur, you're going to attract great relationships. You're going to attract great people on your team, and people want to do life in business with you because they know you are looking out for them.
Yeah, dude. So powerful. It's one of my favorite quotes. If you help enough other people get what they want in life, you can have anything and you want in life if you help enough other people get what they want in life. And it's so true. I think that and getting in the rooms, man. I remember one of the first real meetings we got into was the boot camp, and I ended up making friends with a guy, doing $500 million a year. I'm stepping into rooms with people that, as John Maxwell will talk about, your belief lid. These people, that one of the guys I stepped in a room with, we were at Brandon Dawson's new penthouse for like an after party thing. And I got Cindy and I went to, and we're in this room with very, very established people. And, I'm one of the guys going, hey, what are you doing? And I say we're doing about 60, and I'm saying 60,000 a month because that's what we were doing revenue back then. And it goes, oh, 60 million. That's awesome. What do you do? And boom, right there, that moment in that room, our belief lid for what was possible went up exponentially. Like our goal, we went home, like we are thinking way.
You can't put a price tag on those moments, dude. Those moments will change your life.
Yeah, 100%. That's the power of what I'm hearing is a lot of what you've done is you've gotten in the room, you've been the servant, you've seek to leave everybody better off than the way you found them. And that's powerful. So this is kind of one of the questions that I like to ask towards the end of the show is, we know that really successful people, they can make millions and billions, lose it all, and in a few years be back, if not in a better place than they were before. So if you lost all your business, your money, your connections, your contacts, everything, and you had to start from scratch, what would you do to get back to where you are?
Man, I've got 5 people in a text thread that I text every single day. Brent Gove, who's the #1 guy at EXP. Randy Garn.
We just ran into Brent. Yeah.
Did you? Oh yeah. And done at GrowthCon.
Yep.
Yeah. So I've got, Brent, Brian Covey, Senior Vice President at Loan Depot, Gary Brecka. Everybody knows Gary, Vic Keller, and Randy Garn. I'd go to Puerto Rico for a week and hang out with Britt and Kathy and just recharge and refresh my batteries. I'd probably would go from there. I'd probably would get on a plane.
Well, let's say if you didn't have any of those connections.
Ooh, man, if I didn't have those connections.
Bro, like if you, no money, no connections, and you had to start from fresh.
Yeah.
What would you do?
I'd find the people that were killing it. I'd find the people that were crushing it and get around them and add value. How can I help you? I'd come to you and your wife and be like, okay, guys, how can I help you? What can I do to help you? How can I add value to what you're doing? I would find the people that are doing it. Listen, just like I did in college basketball, high school, college basketball, just like I did in high school and college baseball, just like I did in student ministry. I had 4 of the top people in the world doing youth ministry that were my mentors and my friends. They came and spoke at my conference. It's no different than what I'm doing now. Find the people who are the best, show up, be passionate about what you're doing. And when they give you information, use it. Like, listen, you put the information, you got to take action, as Grant would say, and then ask great questions. I had one of my mentors who put me on my first big stage, came to do an event that I was hosting. Me and a bunch of other student pastors in the area, about 1,100 kids at this big back to school thing. And Ron came in town. We went, me and Tony, my friend who was at my event this was 2000. This was 24 years ago. Tony was at my event at Create a couple weeks ago. He's a senior pastor now. We took Ron to Chili's. And I said, dude, tell me what we could have done better tonight. He looked at me and goes, oh, you guys did a great job. And I had asked the waiter for a napkin and a pen so I could take notes. And he goes, oh, did you get a great job? It was awesome. I said, Ron, tell me what we could have done better. No, Ken, you guys did a phenomenal job. You did really, really good. I said, Ron, I've been listening to you for 2 years. I watched you walk in the building with Tony. I watched you walk up in the bleachers in the back of the building in front of 1,200 kids. I watched you sit in the camera well, and I watched you observe what was going on. Dude, I've been listening to you a long time. I know you saw things we could do better. I know we did a great job, but how can we do better next year? For 10 minutes, dude went boom, 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 boom. He was just ripping them, and I'm writing them down, and I'm writing them down, and I'm writing them down. And had I not done that, I probably never would have been invited from him to go on that stage or to get up in front of hundreds and hundreds of student pastors and leaders and share my story on how I've built our youth ministry the way that we did.
Last question. The takeover is all about winning in every area of life and business. What does winning mean to you, Ken?
Yeah, faith, health, relationship, business, and finances. Those are our core 5. We talked about them at Create for 3 straight days when you and your amazing wife was there. What does it look like for me to become the best version of myself in those areas? You know, you've seen my before and after picture. I'm down over 85 pounds. I'm on a journey. I'm on a health journey. I'm on a health journey. I'm on a relationship journey. I'm on a faith journey. I'm on a business journey, and I'm on a finance journey. How can I become the best version of myself? Because when I do that, what it does is it raises the level of impact and influence that I get to have and all the people around me. And it gets me in front of amazing people like you do.
Awesome, brother. Well, this has been awesome. Great to have you on here. I know you and I are going to be friends for a long time, and just super honored that you come on our show, man. So that's it. Where can people connect with you, Ken?
Easy. Instagram at Ken Joslin, KenJoslin at Ken Joslin. I'm the only one that handles my IG. So if you DM me, I'm the one that's DMing you back.
Love it. All right, brother. Well, have a great day, man. We'll talk soon.
Appreciate you, bro. Thanks, man.